I'm Lucy, I'm 19 and I grew up in Newcastle. I went to school in Broadmeadow at the Performing Arts School for Drama, and at the moment I work at Domino's as a delivery driver. I have a pretty big family, so I have my mum and my dad, I have a stepdad, and I have 4 brothers. Yeah, so at the moment I'm in recovery for an eating disorder, for anorexia. I guess I've been in recovery for just over a year. And so with that, everything that I say, it comes from my personal experience. It's not necessarily going to apply to everyone, because even though it's an eating disorder, they're all going to be individual in some way. Eating disorders are a mental illness, but they have physical implications. So it isn't something that's based on your body or what you look like, or your appearance, or your shape, or your size, or your weight, or anything like that. And that's one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions, I suppose, or stigmas about eating disorders, because everyone's like, you know, you have to look this way to have this disorder, you have to look this way to have that disorder, whereas that's not true at all, because it's not dependent on what you look like, you know, it's about what's in your head, because they are first and foremost a mental health issue. It's very hard to deal with because you're going to be fighting against your own brain every day, and it is exhausting work. Eating disorders are exhausting in every way, you know, emotionally, mentally, physically. It is tiring, and not just being in the disorder but then choosing to go into recovery, that is a whole nother level of exhausting. Figure out how you want to live, where you want to be in life. Is that how you want to live? You know, with the eating disorder, it's not going to be fulfilling and you're not going to be happy. You might get short-term, like very momentary moments of happiness or relief or comfort, but they disappear, and it's hell to live in. But if you choose recovery, then that means you are choosing life, and you can learn to live a full life and a complete life and a whole life where you can be happy and you don't have to be sick. I think a lot of the time for people with eating disorders, our EDs and our brains, they sort of I guess romanticize or glorify the sickness, because it's like, why would you want to be sick or go towards that? There's comfort in it because it's familiar and you know what to expect, and you have that sense of control. Separating yourself from the illness means that you can see a life without the disorder, and that's really important. Getting to that point is what is going to get you through, and it doesn't just happen once, you know, you have to keep on doing it again and again and again, and you have to always remind yourself of why you're doing that. You didn't get sick overnight, so you're not going to get better overnight. I'm not saying that you chose to be sick. That is not there at all. So yeah, you don't choose to be sick, you know, it doesn't work like that, and they do affect anyone and everyone. But you can choose to get better, and you kind of have to make that choice, because your friends and your family can want it and push you for it as much as they want. And your therapist, maybe you can go to all their sessions, they can give you heaps of skills and worksheets and everything. You could go to all these clinics, you could do research, you could do anything, but if you don't actually put that work in and make the effort and make the change yourself, then nothing's going to change. And I think that's really hard to come to terms with and to realise, for both you and for the people around you, because the people around you, they just want to help you, and they want to do anything they can. You have the illusion of control, but you don't actually have your eating disorder is in control. And so by looking at recovery, you can see it as a way of getting that control back and actually having it, not just an illusion. It's real and it's empowering, and you can make that change and you can do it yourself. You can build your life up to be whatever the hell you want to be. That means separating yourself from your eating disorder, because a lot of the time, you know, I would get trapped in that thing of like, oh, I can't, I'm not sick enough, don't deserve to, you know, look at this person with the disorder and they're so much worse. And I know that sounds awful, but it's the reality. Eating disorders are very competitive and they thrive on comparison. So they're always going to tell you that you aren't sick enough and that you can't get better yet, and you can't get better because of this reason, you know. Oh, you can recover when you get to this weight, or you can recover when you do this or this or this. And even if you get there, they're just going to give you something else to do. They're going to give you another criteria because it's endless, and you can't keep waiting for your eating disorder to give you permission, because it is not going to. And to figure that out, it's gonna push you so much further in your recovery, you know, because that's the stuff that you need to work on. Really, you do need to work on the behaviors and the thoughts around food itself, and that's a given. You can't move forward without doing that, but you can't just do that. So healing myself internally is gonna help me so much more with the external behaviors and how I act around food. I'm lucky enough to have a really good therapist, and we work together on everything. Not everyone has that privilege or that luck. You know, finding a therapist can be really tricky, and you might not always get the one for you straight up, and that's okay, and that makes sense. It's a very personal experience, obviously, because you're sharing, you know, your most inner dark guts to this person who you probably have never met before. You know, I'm very lucky to have a great family and very supportive friends and access to great clinicians. You know, my GP is really good and my psychologist is great. So if you can make those connections and find those people, it makes a world of difference. And even if you don't have them in your local, you know, there's a heap of online resources and places which can help you. You know, the Butterfly Foundation is Australia's leading eating disorder foundation, and they have both a call service and an online chat service, and I would recommend them to everyone. And they also have information online for people who are supporting someone with an eating disorder, so they can be really helpful. Going to therapy for me has been life-changing. And I know there's a heap of stigma and shame, I suppose, around going to therapy, but I don't think there should be. You know, I honestly recommend therapy to everyone. I've actively been in recovery for maybe over a year now, and it's still hard, you know? It's been that long and it's still hard, and I'm not saying that to try and discourage. I want to say that to be realistic. But even though I'm not recovered, I have still seen the benefits of recovery. You know, I am so much happier and healthier and better. And even though I might not be 100% yet, that's okay. You know, and over the past year there's been a lot of ups and downs, back and forth, because that's natural. And if that happens, you can't beat yourself up about it. It's gonna happen, and that's okay. It's about what you do next. So I guess looking at professional clinician websites, I would recommend. So things like the Butterfly Foundation is the organisation in Australia. There's also Lifeline, which isn't specific for eating disorders, and Beyond Blue, but they also have good stuff. and they have a chat service. So I know a lot of people aren't comfortable talking on the phone necessarily. So you could go online and just chat to someone who's a professional, and it's not a replacement for therapy, but it could help and push you a little bit further, and you can remain anonymous if you want to. So I've always been a creative person, so I guess it makes sense that a lot of the things that I do now and I've done for a while to help me cope are creative avenues. I think the main one is writing. You know, I always loved writing, both fiction and non-fiction. I've started doing more personal journaling over the past few years, I guess, on and off. You know, and having that outlet does help. Especially if they're things that you don't want to talk about to someone else, then writing it out is a good equivalent. So I guess the main bit of journaling that I do is what I was just talking about, which is the more personal one, where I just write out the thoughts. And sometimes they're ED related and sometimes they're not at all. You know, I also have depression and anxiety, so it might be more related to that. Or it might just be a rant about whatever. But that's what these 3 books are. Yeah. And I just prefer this size because I can carry it around. Anyway. Yeah. So they're really good and just useful. This one, I guess, is the motivation journal, I suppose. So in there I just have, so I guess one of the best pages, or most important, is just sort of this one, where it says reasons to recover, and it just has heaps of different things that are general but also personal to me, of things I do. Yeah, and it doesn't have to just be boring writing and just words, you know. My other journals, they are more like that, but this one, you know, I have washi tape, which is just coloured tape all over it, and I use text as more colourful, and then there's like diamantes, and it just makes it way more appealing to look at, and it makes it kind of fun to do, I suppose. This one is, I guess, a positivity journal, which I started last year, where I just sort of write down different moments in the day that made me happy or a bit more positive, or little things like that. And it doesn't matter how small or how big they are. You know, there's some things in there which lasted for 2 minutes, and another day it was something which lasted for 5 hours. And that, I think, that's really helpful, and I think not just for EDs, but it really helped. It helps with sort of depressive episodes, I suppose, because it makes you appreciate the tiniest thing, and you get to a point where sometimes you don't need to write it down to remember and to show yourself. You know, you just start looking out for those little things naturally. Yeah. And then on one day I just wrote 30 seconds. Like, it can be the smallest thing, but on other days it goes for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. It's good to look back at and see when those changes in mood happen, so then you can try and get more of that into your life. Now these 2 are more clinical, I suppose. I don't know. They yeah, these aren't the choice for me, but they are really, really helpful. So these are my food logs, or my old food logs. So essentially, if you are in recovery for an ED, there is a good chance you will be asked to do this. So basically what you do is you write down the date, what meal and what time, and you write down what you have, and then afterwards you write down all your feelings and thoughts about it, and you do that ongoing. Sometimes this might sound kind of odd, but sometimes giving the eating disorder some compassion in some ways has helped me, you know, instead of being, oh, I'm not going to do that, or like, why are you saying that, or whatever. Just sometimes being like, okay, good, I hear you, I feel you, thank you, but no thanks. And no matter what your disorder says, or what anyone says, or what the world says, you know, it doesn't matter what you look like, or which disorder you might have, or how severe it is, or anything like that. You know, If you have any form of disordered eating, then you deserve to get help, and you deserve recovery. And your pain is real. And everyone's eating disorder is valid. It doesn't matter. There are no exceptions to that. And you are worth it. And you can do it. And I am proud of you.